I need your help with this. This is not a Creepypasta. This is a long read, but I feel like my safety or well-being very could well depend on this. This is video game related, specifically Majora's Mask, and this is the creepiest shit that has ever happened to me in my entire life. Having said that, I recently moved into my dorm room starting as a sophomore in college, and a friend of mine gave me his old Nintendo 64 to play. I was stoked to say the least. I could finally play all those old games of my youth I hadn't touched at least in a decade. His Nintendo 64 came with a yellow control and a rather shouty copy of Super Smash Bros. While beggars can't be choosers, needless to say, it didn't take long until I came bored of beating up level 9 CPUs. That weekend, I've decided to drive around a few neighborhoods about 20 minutes or so off campus, hitting around the local garage sales, hoping to score a good deal from ignorant parents. I ended up picking up a copy of Pokemon Stadium GoldenEye, F-Zero, and 2 other controllers for $2. Satisfied, I began to drive out of the neighborhood when one last house caught my attention. I still have no idea why it did. There's no cars and only one table set up with random junk on it, but still sort of drew me in. I usually trust my gut on these sort of things and got out of my car and greeted the old man. His outstretched appearance was, for a lack of a better word, displeasing. If you asked me to tell you why I thought it was displeasing, I couldn't really pinpoint anything. There was just something about him that put me on edge. I can't explain it. All I can tell you is that if it was in the middle of the day and there was other people within shouting distance, I wouldn't even thought of approaching this man. He flashed a crooked smile at me and asked what I was looking for, and immediately noticed that he must be blind in one eye. His right eye had that glazed over look about it. I forced myself to look at his left eye and said, trying not to offend, and asked him if he had any old video games. I was already wondering how I could politely excuse myself from the situation when he would tell me he had no idea what a video game was, but to my surprise he had a few ones in an old junk box. He just assured me that he'd be back in a jiffy and turned his head back to the garage. As I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help but notice that he was selling on his table. Littered across his table were rather peculiar paintings, various artworks that looked like ink lots of psychiatrists might show you. Curious, I looked through them. It was obvious why no one was visiting this guy's garage sales. These weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. As I came to the last one, for some reason it looked almost like Majora's Mask. The same heart-shaped body with a little spike protruding outwards. Initially, I just thought that since it was secretly hoping to find that game at these garage sales, some Freudian bullshit was projecting itself into the ink blot. But given the events that happened afterward, I'm not sure now. I should have asked the man about it. God, how I wish that I asked the man about it. After staring at the Majora-shaped blot, I looked up at the old man, and suddenly there again, arm's length in front of me, smiling at me. I'll admit, I jumped out of reflex and laughed nervously as he handed me a Nintendo 64 cartridge. It was the standard gray color, except for someone had written Majora on it in black permanent marker. I got butterflies on my stomach as I realized what a coincidence it was and asked him how much he wanted for it. The man smiled at me and told me I could have it for free, that it used to belong to a kid who was about my age that didn't live here anymore. There was something weird about how the man phrased that, but I didn't really pay any attention to it then. I was too caught up in not only finding this game, but getting it for free. I reminded myself to be a bit skeptical since it looked like a pretty shady cartridge and there's no guarantee it would work. But then the optimist inside me interjected that maybe it's some kind of beta version or pirated version of the game, and that was all I needed to go back into Cloud9. I thanked the man smiled at me and wished me well, saying goodbye then. At least that's what I thought it sounded like to me. All the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt that the man had said something else. My fears confirmed when I booted up the game. To my surprise, it worked just fine, and there was one save file simply named Ben. Goodbye, Ben. He was saying goodbye, Ben. I felt bad for the man, obviously a grandparent and obviously going senile, and I, for some reason or another, reminded him of his grandson Ben. Out of curiosity, I looked at the save file. Eyeballing it, I could tell that he was pretty far into the game. He had almost all 3 of the masks, 3 of 4 remaining of the bosses. I noticed that he had used an owl statue to save his game. He was on day 3 and by the Stone Tower Temple with hardly an hour left before the moon would crash. I remember thinking that it was a shame that he had come so close to beating the game, but he never finished it. I made a new file, named it Link Editor Edition, and started the game, ready to relive my childhood. For such a shady looking game cartridge, I was impressed on how smoothly it ran. Literally just like a retail copy of the game, save for a few minor hiccups here and there, like textures being where they shouldn't be, random flashes and cutscenes at odd intervals, but nothing too bad. However, the only thing that was a little unnerving was that there was times where NPCs would call me Link and other times where they'd call me Ben. I figured it was just a bug, a fluke in the programming causing our files to get mixed up or something. It did kind of creep me out though after a while, and it was around after I'd beaten the Woodfall Temple that I regretfully went in the save files and deleted Ben. I had intended it to preserve the file just out of respect to the game's original owner. It's not like I needed 2 files anyway, hoping that it would solve the problem. It did, and it didn't. Now NPCs wouldn't call me anything where my name would be in the dialogue. There was just blank spaces. My save file name would just call me Link though. Frustrated and with homework to do, I put the game down for a day. I started playing the game again last night, getting the lens of truth and working my way towards completing the Snowhead Temple. Now, some of you more hardcore Majora Mask players know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't know, Google it. But the gist of it is right as the clock is about to hit 000 on the final day, you talk to the astronomer and look through the telescope. If the time is just right, the countdown disappears and you essentially have another day to finish whatever you were doing. Deciding to do the glitch and try to finish the Snowhead Temple, I happened to get it right on the first try, and the time counter at the bottom disappeared. However, when I pressed BX at the telescope instead of being greeted by the astronomer, I found myself in a Majora boss fight room at the end of the game, the trippy box arena, staring at the Skull Kid hovering above me. There was no sound, just him floating in the air above me, and the background music, which was regular for the arena, but still creepy. Immediately, my palms began to sweat, and this was definitely not normal. Skull Kid never appeared in here. I tried moving around the arena, but no matter where I went, Skull Kid would always be facing me, looking at me, not saying anything. Nothing would happen though, and this kept going on around for about 60 seconds. I thought the game was bugged or something, but I began to doubt that very much. I was about to reach for the reset button when text appeared on the screen. You're not sure why, but you had a reservation. I instantly recognized that text. You get that message when you were in the room key from Andrew at the Stockpot Inn, but why was it playing here? I refused to entertain the notion that it was almost as if the game was trying to communicate with me. I started to navigate the room again, testing to see if it was some sort of trigger that enabled me to interact with something here. Then I realized how stupid I was to even think someone could reprogram the game. Like, this is absurd. Sure enough, 15 seconds later, another message appeared on the screen, and like the first one, it was already pre-existing phrase. Go to the lair of the temple's boss. Yes, no. I paused for a second, contemplated what I should press and how the game would react when I realized I couldn't select no. Taking a deep breath, when I pressed yes, the screen faded to white and the words Dawn of a New Day with the subtitle of 6 lines beneath it. Where I was ported to filled me with the most intense sense of dread and impeding fear I had ever experienced. The only way I can describe the way I felt here is having this feeling of unacceptable depression on a profound scale. I'm normally not a depressed person, but the way I felt was a feeling that I didn't even know existed. It was such a twisted and powerful presence that seemed to wash over me. I appeared in some weird Twilight Zone version of Clocktown. I walked out of the clock tower as you normally would do when you start day 1, only to find that all the inhabitants were gone. Usually with the 4th day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that runs around the outside tower. This time, they were all gone. What replaced them was ominous feeling that there was something out there in the same area as me, that it was watching me. I had 4 hearts to my name and a hero's bow, but at this point, I wasn't even considering for my avatar. I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Perhaps the chilling thing was the music. It was the Song of Healing, ripped straight out of the game itself, but played in reverse. The music would get louder, building up, so as if you could expect something to pop out of you, but nothing ever did, and the constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then I would hear the faint laugh of the happy masked salesman in the background, just quiet enough so I wasn't sure if I was hearing things, but loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked in all 4 zones of Clocktown, only to find nothing. No one. Textures were missing. West Clocktown had me walking on air. The entire area felt broken, hopelessly broken, as the reverse Song of Healing repeated for what must have been the 50th time. I remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, realizing I had never felt so alone in a video game before. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was a combination of out-of-place textures in the atmosphere and the haunting melody of one peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted, but it was literally on the verge of tears and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry. Something ungripped me here in this powerful sense of depression that was both foreign and crippling. I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I attempted to zone out, the screen would fade to black and it would just zone to another part of Clocktown. I tried playing the ocarina. I wanted to escape and I did not want to be here, but every time I played the Song of Time or Song of Soaring, it would say, your notes echo fire, but nothing happens. By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave, but I had no idea why. It was keeping me here. I didn't want to go inside the building. I felt I'd be too vulnerable there. of whatever I was terrified of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea maybe if I drown myself in the laundry pool, I could spawn somewhere else and leave this place. As I zoned in and ran towards the pool, that's when it happened. Link grabbed his head and the screen flashed for a brief moment of the happy mask salesman smiling at me, not Link, me, with the Skull's kid screaming. The scream returned. I was staring at Link's statue from playing the song of El Genius of Emptiness. Screamed as the thing stared back at me with that haunting facial expression. I turned around and ran out back into South Clock Town. And to my horror, the fucking statue followed me, and the only way I can compare this with the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. Every so often, at random intervals, the animation would play of the statue appearing behind me. It was like the thing was chasing me, or I don't even want to fucking say it, haunting me. At this point, I was on the verge of hysterics, but not even once did the thought of turning off the console occur to me. I don't know why. I was so wrapped up in it, the terror felt so real. I tried to shake the statue, but it literally would appear right behind me, and every single time Link started to begin to make this weird animation I'd never seen him do before. He'd flail his arms around, spasm randomly, and scream. Would cut to the happy mask salesman smiling again for a brief moment before face to face with that fucking statue again. I ended up running back to the Swords Master Dojo and ran back. I don't know why, but in my panic I just wanted some kind of assurance that I wasn't alone here. To my dismay, I found no one, but as I turned to leave, the statue cornered me in the cubby in the back. Tried attacking the statue with my sword, but to no avail. Confused and backed into a corner, I just stared into the statue, waiting for it to kill me. Suddenly, the screen flashed again to the happy mask salesman, and Link turned to face the screen, standing upright, mirroring the statue, looking at me along with his copy, literally staring at me. Whatever was left on the fourth wall was completely shattered while I ran out of the dojo, terrified. Suddenly, the game wrapped me into an underground tunnel, and the reverse song of healing queued up again, as I was given a brief moment of rest before the statue started appearing behind me again, this time aggressively. I could only take a few steps before it summoned behind me. I hurriedly made my way out of the tunnel and appeared in southern Clock Town. As I ran aimlessly in sheer panic, suddenly a reed-dead screamed, and the screen faded to black as dawn of a new day, and 6 lines appeared again. The screen faded in, and I was standing on the top of Clock Tower and Skull Kid hovering over me again, silent. I looked up and the moon was back, looming just meters above my head, but the Skull Kid just stared at me hauntingly with that fucking mask. A new song was playing. The Stone Tower Temple theme played in reverse. In some sort of desperate attempt, I equipped in my bow and fired a shot at the Skull Kid, and it actually hit him. He played an animation of him reeling back, and I fired again. On the third arrow, the text box appeared saying, "That won't do you any good here." And I was picked up off the ground, levitated upwards on my back, and then Link screamed as he burst into flames, instantly killing him. I jumped when this happened. I'd never seen this move used by anyone in the game, and Skull Kid himself didn't have any moves. As the death scream played, my lifeless body still burning, the Skull Kid laughed and the screen faded to black, only to have me reappear in the same place. I decided to charge him, but the same thing happened. Link's body was lifted off the ground by some unknown force, and he instantly burst into flames again, killing him. This time during the death screen, the faint sound of reverse song of healing could be heard. On the third and final try, I noticed that there was no music playing this time, but all there was eerie silence. I remembered that in the original encounter with Skull Kid, you were supposed to use the ocarina to either travel back in time or summon the giants. I attempted to play the Song of Time, but before I could hit the last note, Link's body once again horrifically exploded into flames, and he died. As the death screen neared, it began to chug, as if the cartridge was trying to process a lot of something. When the screen came to, it was the same screen as the first 3 times, except this time Link was laying on the ground dead in a position I had never seen in the game before, his head tilted towards the camera with Skull Kid floating above him. I couldn't move, I couldn't press any buttons, all I could do was just stare at Link's body. After around 30 seconds of this, the game simply fades out with the message, "You met a terrible fate, haven't you?" before kicking you out to the title screen. Upon getting back to the title screen and starting again, I noticed my save file was no longer there. Instead of Link, it was replaced with "Your turn." Your turn had 3 hearts, 0 mask, and no items. I selected "Your turn," and immediately when I did, I was returned to Clock Tower Rooftop, the scene of Link's death, and Skull Kid hovering over, with Skull Kid laughing, looping again and again. I quickly hit the reset button and the game booted up again. There was one more save file added below Your Turn, entitled Ben. Ben's save file is right back to where it was when I deleted it. at the Store Tower Temple, with the moon almost crashing. I turned the game off at that point. I'm not superstitious, but this is way too fucked up even for me. I haven't played it all today. Hell, I didn't even get any sleep last night. I keep hearing the reverse song and healing music in my head, and I just remember the sense of dread I felt exploring Clocktown. I drove back to the old man's house today to ask him some questions with a buddy of mine. No way I was going there alone, only to find that there was a for sale sign out front, and when I rang the door, no one was home. So now I'm back here writing down the rest of my thoughts and recording what happened. Sorry if some of the grammatical errors and whatnot. I'm running on no sleep here. I'm terrified of this game, even more so now that I relived it a second time writing this all down, but I feel like there's still more to it than meets the eye, and that there's something calling to me to investigate this further. I think Ben is something in this equation, but I don't know what, and if I could get hold of the old man, then I would be able to find some answers. I need another day or so to recuperate before tackling this game again. It's already taken a toll on my sanity, but next time I do, I'm going to record my footage all the way through. The idea of recording only came towards the end, so you see the last few minutes of what I saw, including Skull Kid and the elegy statue, but it's on YouTube here. I'm going to stay on this set for a little while longer before I fall asleep to answer any questions you guys might have, or hopefully listen to your ideas or theories to help me shed some light on this, or maybe things I should do or try. I think I'm going to play Ben's file tomorrow to see what happens. Maybe I was supposed to do that all along. I don't believe in paranormal shit, but this is a little fucked up. But maybe this Ben guy is really good at hacker or programmer or something. I don't want to think about the alternative if he isn't. That's the end of the copy/paste. I'm hoping that maybe this is some kind of running gag the developers had, that other people have gone gag or hack copies of the game like this. This is really just scares me.